Okay, it says you're live, and I hope this mic is working, which means no echo. Okay, in keeping with tradition, uh, and tipping my hat to David Lynch, the weather report, sun, but you will need a sweater for the first 5 hours of the day, probably. Okay, so now I'm gonna read your questions, and I do it in first come, first served basis. So the first question comes from Tyler. What are your top 3 Hunter S. Thompson novels? Now, he only wrote one novel, I think, Rum Diary, but you probably mean his top 3 books. So number 1 would be Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, of course. Number 2 would be Hell's Angels. And then number 3, there are all these compilations of his journalism that are really great. There's one called Songs of the Doomed. There's one called The Great Shark Hunt. So I would just say that maybe Songs of the Doomed. I think that one has Midnight on the Coast Highway in it, about him riding his motorcycle on the PCH I think in San Francisco or Oakland, and probably San Francisco. And but maybe it was here, maybe in Los Angeles. And he said he wrote it as soon as he got back from the ride. He just sat down and wrote it and never edited it. And that never ever happened. It's probably the only time he's done that in his career. And he said it's his favorite thing that he's ever written. Midnight on the Coast Highway, and I believe it's in Songs of the Doomed, although you'd have to look it up. Okay, next from Raphael. Van, do you know how Tom Sachs does serial numbering of his creations? What are the rules for numbering dates, parts, and subassemblies? Thank you. Do you adopt a similar approach to numbering your own creations? Okay, I have a Tom Sachs knife right here, and let me see if there is a serial number on it. Okay, so the serial number is right down there. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, it's like, let me see until I get you in focus. It's right here. And so it says SN colon 2021.043. And I think the way he does his serial numbers is that it's the date, the year 2021, and then the .043. That means it's the 43rd piece made that year. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Next question. Oh, do you adopt a similar approach to numbering your own creations? I don't. I just put the date on them. This one's from Andrew. Hi, Van. How do you cut square cuts with your jigsaw? It's all I have right now, and I'm having a hard time making straight cuts. I resist getting a miter saw as they're very expensive, but I'm only doing small work around the house. So I only really use a jigsaw. And I kind of use it like a razor. So I was taught by the great John Ferguson, if you want to cut a really straight line, like in a piece of foam core with a razor, you use your ruler to make the line, but you don't use your ruler or a guide to make the cut. You do as best you can to follow the line of the cut, usually like maybe probably to the outside of the cut. So the outside is your scrap. And so you're just trying to stay on that edge of that line. And so what happens is you're only off by a little bit every now and then, as opposed to if you used a guard and you're off by 1 millimeter at some point, you're going to be off by 10 millimeters, if it's a really long like sheet of plywood. So with the jigsaw, I do the same thing. I mark it with a 0.9 millimeter pencil, like plywood, and then I just like a Jedi. Oh, you have to light it really well. Light it really well. Constantly adjusting the light right on the line where you're going to cut. And then just like a Jedi, and you just zone in and you be like you're on a motorcycle and you're on a single track trail and there's a cliff on either side of you. So you're just staying right next to that line. And yeah, that's how I cut everything, all the stuff in this room. And if you have a lumber yard, okay, you can, and let's say you're buying 3/4 inch plywood at Home Depot or at a lumber yard. You have to do all the math in your head, and you have to draw a picture, and you have to do the order by which you want the 4x8 sheet of plywood cut. Like if you need a big piece and then a bunch of strips, you've got to draw the picture for yourself, and then with all the measurements, and then you give that to the cut guy and help him get through it and do it in order. This piece gets first, this one, then this one, then this one. And then when you're done, Home Depot charges ridiculously cheap, like 50 cents a cut or something like this. But always tip your guy. Always tip your guy, because when you come back, he'll be more likely to he'll be more likely to help you. It's better. And like, stick with the same guy, even if he kind of screws it up, unless he's like one of these I don't give a shit guys. Stick with the same guy because he'll aim to improve. Same with tipping at a restaurant. Always over tip and then try to stick with the same guy or gal. Guy or gal at Home Depot too. Yeah, so that's how, if you really need straight, you can outsource it. But yeah, I do the same thing. Everything's jigsaw. Okay, Alexander. Hey, Van, was curious if there was an update on new merch. Always willing to support when I can. Also, any extra question, any new podcast or audiobooks you have been listening to? New merch, yes. There's we're like switching companies right now from our merch distributor. We're in the process of considering switching to a new company, and then I want to start doing more like heirloom pieces, like made in USA, more expensive, kind of lower profit margin things. But I don't know. I'm still thinking about that. I'm trying to recover from this baby, which was a big, long process of getting my process all disrupted. So that's the status of the merch. It's a little uncertain. Extra question, new podcast or audiobooks. Not that I can think of offhand, but I'm reading the Walter Isaacson biography of Elon Musk. And it's really cool. You know what's cool? It's cool to be the guy who has all the little corrections. Like, no, he was married twice. Tallulah. He also married Tallulah. Just to know all the little and to know the chronology. It's very strange reading that book, because like huge things were like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And I'm used to reading, when you read historical books, it's usually before you're born, all this stuff happened. So it's also, and that guy's great, Isaacson. So yeah, the new Elon Musk book. Okay, Jonas asks me, do you think we as a people will ever be able to make substantial change to government? It seems less and less that we can have an impact, hence lobbyists. This is a good question. I think, and I mean, it feels very hopeless now. It feels like there's no way people want parking tickets. There's just no way. There's no way that the people want to have to pay for parking meters on the street. That can't be the will of the people. And that's like one non-public interest serving, non-democratic non-democratically enacted law that just exists, and of tons of them. I think that people nowadays are, with technologies that they invent, are kind of changing the government, and the government very, very slowly, can implement, you can email your congressman and so forth, but I I think if you're trying to able to make substantial change to government, I don't know. We'll see what happens with AI, and we'll see what happens with, we're just in the early stages of all of this independent media, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think so. I think it can. I think it can change and for the better. Okay, Eric asks, do you think being in love makes you a better artist? I feel that my best work is when I am happy, but sometimes I hear and read that some artists create their best work when they live in torture. What are your thoughts? Okay, so I think you got to make stuff no matter what, because as an artist, you know, our job is to transmit a feeling that we have once felt, is to transmit that feeling to whoever beholds our art. So you got to be making when the times are good and the times are bad. I think it's easiest to make art when you're in love, and probably, yeah, it might be a little better because we love that feeling of love. And if that's the uh if that's the feeling you're transmitting, then by gosh, isn't that nice? Like, I don't know, maybe when push comes to shove, maybe Punch Drunk Love is my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie, just because of the way it feels. And I was like in love when that movie, I was just started dating a gal with a British accent too. Uh, just like the gal that Adam Sandler dates. When that movie came out. Um, but yeah, it's certainly easier to when you're in a really high place, but you kind of got to grind through the tough stuff. You got to make that stuff too, which kind of who wants to do that? But Lynch says that there's the myth of the suffering artist in the garret, freezing to death with no money. I think it's all from Van Gogh because of such, like, he has the highest disparity of success when he was alive versus success when he was dead. He's probably numero uno. So it becomes, this, it's achievable to be a suffering loser. Like that doesn't take much work. So I think people take comfort in, well, I'm a suffering artist, but Lynch says that's a myth, and that an artist is at his best when he's all of the little creature comforts and everything is set, and your body is in a position to allow your subconscious to be free. And then I think it was Rick Rubin says that you want to live in a manner in which art becomes inevitable. Something like that. Okay. Silas asks, what is your recommended camera for recording videos for someone who has little to no experience with one? And any news on the repair station in April? Okay, so iPhone, I would say just iPhone. If you have no experience and if you wanna record videos, because whatever you don't even need the latest one. I think I have an iPhone 12. It's fantastic. It's 4K. It's great. So I would say that. And then a GoPro, whatever the latest one is, the GoPro 11 or something. Maybe it's the 12, I don't know. GoPro's great because they're indestructible and you can swim with them, and they have time lapse. It's just like a button that you push. It's very easy to set time lapse if you want to shoot time lapse. But yeah, those two, kind of all you really need. Okay, Chase asks, how are the boots breaking in? So I think in 3 days it will be the 2 months since I started wearing the new boots, and they're totally comfortable. I can wear them all day. I could walk however long I need to walk on them. I haven't greased them yet, which is Limmer has this special grease, and they say don't put anything else on it but the grease. I haven't done that yet. Um, they're much softer. At first, when you get them, uh, they're like baseball mitt leather. And now, like the surface kind of feels almost like bomber jacket leather. It's like soft. They're still strong and blah blah blah, but they're 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 nice. And then the creases along like where my toes meet my foot and my ankle creases where my ankle bends and all that stuff. Those are all coming nice. I should just show them to you. Where are they? Nah, they're up at the house. Okay, so yeah, it's coming along great. They're coming along great. Um, and then Chase also asks, are there things you enjoy so much that you feel you can't make a video about it that'll actually convey your feelings on it? Um, yeah, certain things you're not gonna, snowboarding or whatever, you're not gonna get it across. Um, and motorcycles, maybe. Uh, okay, Andy asks, imagine that you can have anyone fictional as your imaginary friend. Who would you choose and why? What's a story, moment, or experience from your life that changed the way you view the world? Imaginary friend from a book or a movie or story. Oh God. Now I just need to go through my library of stuff and find a good friend character. I don't know, Horatio. uh, he's supposed to be like the best of the best friends. Um, gosh, I don't know. Let me think of movies. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know. Uh, what's a story, moment, or experience from your life that changed the way you view the world? Oh man, September 11th, 2001, on 8th Avenue in New York City, about I don't know 1 mile from the towers. That changed my view, the way I viewed the world. Um, Ryan asked, any advice for finding a spirited woman? Yes. Do not seek women's advice. If you're a man, don't seek women's advice. Do not seek advice about women from women. Seek advice about women from men, because women have a completely different point of view. So that's one piece of advice. Uh, I don't know. With the internet and all that stuff and the dating apps and all of that thing, like I'm 10 years out of that game. Like I never did it. I never did that stuff. So I don't know, because it used to be like much of the world, like much of experience. It used to be this unpredictable, serendipitous kind of beautiful thing, and now it's more data entry. So I don't know. I'd say get advice from men, not from women. uh, John asks thoughts on camping. I have mixed feelings about camping. I camped with my kid in the truck. That was fun. Pitched a tent and put the equipment in the tent that normally goes in the truck. No food or anything, but like shoes and clothes and stuff lived in the tent, and then we slept in the truck. It was still cold. I idled the truck all night. It's a diesel. I thought you could do that, but the idle wasn't at a high enough RPM to charge the battery appropriately. I didn't run out of battery, but I got a warning on my Murphy gauge that said battery something is too low, like battery maintenance, blah blah blah, is too low. It scared me. I thought we were going to be stranded out there in the desert, but uh, so I like camping where there's some element of luxury to it, like camping trips mixed with staying in hotels, or camping where there's a team that feeds you. Otherwise, it's just camping is just like putting things away, cleaning up messes, and taking things out, and it's just like I do that every day anyway. So that's kind of how I feel about camping. Uh, I'm writing from you from number 203 in 368 Broadway. Would love a good 368 story if you have one. Oh my gosh, from Nicholas. I'm trying to think of that door. 203. So you get off the elevator. Is it the one that's straight ahead, or do you have to take a right and it's on the right? Because 201 is you get off the elevator and that's on your left. So anyway, I think a good story, if you're in the one where you get off the elevator, you take a right and it's the first right. That was the first Red Bucket studio. So that was a collective of like the Safdies, Josh Safdie, Ben Safdie, um, Sam Lysenko, Brett Jutkowitz, Ariel Schulman and Neve Schulman were kicking around in there for a bit, I think. Alex Kalman. Who's another guy? I can't remember his name. Wow. This is a close person to me from Louisville, Kentucky. I can't remember his name. Embarrassing. Anyway, they had a studio in there. They're all crammed in. If you're in the one on the right, when you come out of the elevator, take a right, take a right. There, that was the first. And we got our HBO show the same year, like maybe the same month that Josh and Ben independently got into their films into the Cannes Film Festival for the first time. And I think Ben might have been a teenager when that happened. He was like really young. Augustine asks, "Hi Van, notice you used Minor Threat Stumped in Tom's 10 Bullets video. Are you a hardcore punk enjoyer? Thanks for everything, Van." I'm like 5 years too young to be for the hardcore thing to have been significant for me. Like Henry Rollins and Sax and all those guys, they're about like 5 to 10 years older than me. So no, I'm not really. But like when I was a kid, the really cool kids, when you would go to Boston or New York, they would have like the homemade Minor Threat or what was the other one? The Cramps. I guess that's not hardcore, but they would have that hardcore stuff. But I like the funny guys like the Dead Kennedys and the Dead Milkmen. Does that count? I don't know. But no, I'm not much of a hardcore guy. Joe asks, "What is your advice for forcing yourself to sit down and create videos writing? I come from a very working class background, but have trouble seeing the creative work as work. But when I can force myself to sit down and create, I feel an overwhelming feeling of calm and the exact opposite when I can't." This is a crazy one for me. I think that it should just be a compulsion. I don't know about that forcing yourself to sit down and blah, 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 blah. I think it has to start as a compulsion. Like your life is falling apart because of whatever this creative thing that you're compelled to do, making videos or whatever. Your life is sort of falling apart because that's all, like a drug addict. That's all you want to do. And if you start there, then the like discipline A is to get that within a time, is to get that compulsion and hack it into a from this o'clock to this o'clock before work and from this o'clock to this o'clock after work. And then you just got to pull yourself away. But the making yourself sit down, I don't know. I don't know. I've done those things where like writing, for example, is something where you have to do that. It's very hard. But I write so that I can make these videos, and the pressure of having to have one every week just forces it. I mean, I'm in a constant state of writing. I got stuff, I got notes in my pocket and everything. And the forcing yourself to sit down, I don't know. I'd say don't do it. I'd say quit and find and just keep seeking the thing that you're compelled, that you have the opposite problem with, and then try to rein that in. Oh yeah, and read The War of Art. Maybe I did have that problem and I read that book and then I got over it. Read The War of Art. That's the book that talks about resistance. Is that for a lot of people, there's resistance. So Paula says, "I just had to pipe in to say me too. I'm reading The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield, and it's so helpful. He writes how resistance is a force fleshed out as an actual character. It's got me to put my butt in the chair regularly again. Really good. So, yeah, and the resistance is playing against you. And the thing to keep in mind is like it's a 3-hour investment basically, I think, of sitting in the chair until good things start coming. And sometimes it's every other day. And I'm talking especially if you're a writer. Like nothing's going to happen probably for the first, unless you're in practice, unless you're doing this every day for years, I think. Um, you got to sit in that chair, and at hour 3 when it's like about to quit, you're going to be like flooded, and you're going to be like, oh no, I could keep going, and then you're done. um uh, but yeah, Pressfield talks about that phenomenon of fighting, of having to force yourself into the chair. um okay, Mark asks, "Hey Van, have a few questions for you. What is the interior of your home like? Is it utilitarian or industrial as your shop is? Do you have a decor?" Isabel is a industrial designer, so she just did the whole interior, and it's quiet. It's like white walls. There's not much decoration. There's X's. I made him a guitar for his first Halloween. I made him a Gene Autry guitar out of cardboard. That's hanging over the fireplace. I think that's like the only decoration. And then there's a wall of books, and then everything's just kind of blank, just to have like ease. And then just as like Spanish tile floor, white walls, TV on the walls. Very small house, tiny little house. People, unless you've lived in New York City, like people are like, "How the hell are you living in this?" But for me, it's like a big New York City 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom apartment with a yard. So yeah. To give a top 10, maybe 20 much watched movie list for someone who isn't a movie person. Oh my gosh. For example, my favorite movie is Good Will Hunting. I never know where to start, and I hate dumb movies. I guess my last question, since I've never chimed in on any of these Q&As, does your partner not like to be on camera, or you just don't want her as a public figure as you? Meaning, I think that it would be really interesting to see more interactions between the two of you, and it seems as though you are committed to each other. Why not just get married? That is what I have for now. Okay. All right, so I can't give you 10 or 20 must-watch movies. Okay, I'll just do by director. Watch all watch all the movies of Stanley Kubrick. Start with Full Metal Jacket, and then glom around from there. Watch all the movies of Paul Thomas Anderson. Watch all the Guy Ritchie movies, except for maybe no, just watch except for maybe that Thor movie. Is that what it was called? I don't remember. I didn't really like it. Um, watch the Jane Campion movies, except for the newest one wasn't really that good. Watch Lynn Ramsey's movies. Watch Werner Herzog's movies. Watch Scorsese, Coppola, Sofia Coppola. Her movies are wonderful. She has a better track record than her dad, Francis Ford Coppola, because Sofia Coppola hasn't really made any duds, and Francis Ford Coppola has made a few. So okay, there it is. Camera. Isabel not being on camera. It's just she's been pregnant for the last year and with the new baby, and just super busy. It's not much to shoot. We haven't been like there hasn't been much action. It's just been very domesticated. And okay. And this from John. All of the books you've recommended on your channel have been truly excellent. How do you find new books? Oh, podcasts and recommendations from people, and I think that's basically it. Or if a book, mentions a book, but that's how people and podcasts mainly. Matt asks, how much do you consider Where a hand tool is manufactured before you buy it, knives, power tools, whatever. I used to consider it a great deal, and then sometime within the last 20 years, just about everyone manufactures in China. And you have to like Bosch, I think, manufactures in China, and they used to manufacture in Switzerland. Milwaukee used to be American. Now it's, and then they do these tricks like they'll have one line of tools or whatever that are made in America, and then the rest of them are made in China. Even Leica, they have there's one model, it's their most inexpensive model, and it's basically a Panasonic something or other, and it's made in China. And then the next model up that's made in Germany is sevenfold as expensive. Um, like the Husqvarna, KTM bought Husqvarna. I bought a Husqvarna, supposed to be Swedish motorcycle for Isabel. I believe it was made in India. So I used to pick, I used to, Tom Sachs and I used to joke about like a hierarchy of like manufacturers who are the best. America's like one of the best. We make some of the greatest stuff. But now it's just very struggle. Now it's like the opposite. They made in USA is like the key feature for certain things, and they let you know it. So when I can, I do. If they're on shelves and I'm picking it out, I pick out an American one or some other country with a high standard of living. Um, but yeah, I don't consider it as much as I used to. Um, okay, Paula again. Whatever you make, you tell a great story. How do you come up with your surprising endings? How did you come up summing up your work with the disaster masterpiece quote? So good. Oh, that was from yesterday. So the surprise endings comes when to me, when I'm writing, and it's a surprise to me too. So I'm working, like, how do I get this? Like, what's the solution to this problem? Sometimes the surprise endings are just given to you, like when you're out shooting, if you're shooting live. But I don't, yeah, David Mamet, he says his biggest fear in life is that the audience will beat him to the punchline. And really the ending has to be kind of a punchline, and the two main ingredients of a punchline is that it has to be inevitable and surprising. It can't just be some rabbit you pull out of your hat. It has to be like, "Oh, yeah." And what makes them great is what makes great ones is that the person who wrote them or whatever, they went through the struggle of figuring out the end. They went through the struggle of figuring out. Sometimes it's the first thing you figure it out, and you got to figure out that, oh, no, 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 I'm leading up to this. I'm not starting out with this. So the disaster masterpiece quote, I just was, I don't know, going through footage and just the struggle of doing this kind of work, and the making money at it and everything. It just feels like so much failure. And yeah, that really resonated with me. And I don't remember much, but I definitely remember Joe Walsh talking about that. How's the film photography going? Let me see. I haven't gotten a rollback in a while. The baby was like a real um alternate universe when the whole baby process is like the 2001 going through that tunnel. So that's probably I still have the camera. I got 4 rolls of film. I'm ready to go. So um it's still going. Sean asked, what have been your personal remedies for overthinking or self-sabotaging behavior? Does adherence to a schedule help prevent these? Yes, adherence to a schedule. Self-sabotaging is a tricky one. That's like I have a bad temper, and I used to just if I got upset with something, I would just destroy, I'd just smash it into 1,000 pieces. Um, Overthinking, you just got to get going on whatever the heck you're doing. Just gotta get going on it. Just go. Stop thinking and just get going on it. Maybe write out a quick little list and deadlines. Deadlines, like no shit deadlines. Like not I'm gonna move it, no. And don't start a new project until you've finished the project at hand. That way you just get sick of it and you just finish it. And embrace mediocrity and bad work. If it allows you to move on to the next thing, just be like, all right, it's not that good. Fine, next try. I'm astonished when people like starting out are like, I just don't like my work, blah, blah, blah. Do you have 10 years? Your work's going to be garbage for like 10 years, but you might get a little encouragement every 30 days or something, some little tiny encouragement. Like, that there was golfers, they say that like what keeps people coming back to golf is that out of 18 holes, they usually have one shot that they liked, that they were happy with, people golfing, 100, scoring 100 or whatever, one of those shots. So you just got to keep at it and don't think too much. Nathaniel asks, I have to assume you're planning multiple projects at once. How do you zoom out and organize your projects? How do you fit in things like vehicle maintenance and other projects that aren't related to making a video? Do you just wing it or you got a system? I need to get help. I need I don't know. I cannot for the life. I am almost 50 years old. For the life of me, cannot figure out how to delegate projects, how to delegate things. For the life of me, it's like if I were to work with someone that uh if I were to work with someone to do like little menial tasks that I'm always doing, it would be more time. It would take more of my time to explain them and to like follow up on them and all of that than it would for me just to do them, and I'd have to pay the person. So I don't know. I don't know. I just try to keep a tight schedule and I don't know. And like building in rest and going slowly. I don't know. It's like a dragon that I have to slay. It's really, really hard. But I prioritize getting these videos done. And so that's basically my violent focus is on that. Sean asks, do you have a process for determining if you'll creatively patch a problem like the bird poop canopy versus when you completely rethink the system? Do you have a process for determining if you'll creatively patch a problem versus when you'd completely rethink the system? A process, I don't know, but I know what you're saying. Like there's like never give up and know when to quit. I'm pretty fast to like try alternative. This isn't working. Let's try this. This isn't working. Let's try this. I could probably be more helpful to slow down and do something else. And I'm sorry, and stick with the current strategy and just get better at it. But yeah, no, I think that's just a slow, creatively patching the problem versus completely rethinking the system. I think that's case by case, and I think it's just like a slow process that I'm struggle with. Do you have a favorite tool bag brand, or did you make one yourself? Favorite tool bag. You know who makes great bags is Kill Spencer. They made my camera bag, but it was so complicated to make that they only did a limited run of them, and they were expensive. They're like $1,100. And I like the little zipper bags. I think Kill Spencer makes them too, but I like the Klein zipper bags that just are like a piece of canvas. Zoop. Um, I like those. And then I've been ordering these like crappy wax cotton ones from Amazon for specific things. Like I keep the electric dirt bike charger in the canvas $40 bag I ordered from Amazon. Eric asks, I notice you've labeled your GoPros with Bolex and RFlex. Have you ever thought about making some short videos on 16 millimeter film with something like a Bolex? It's It's got that same analog feeling that 35 millimeter still photos have. I've shot things on with a Bolex. Um, Too much of a pain in the neck for the. It's just too much trouble for the result, and yeah, yeah, too much. They're too big. They're too heavy. The processing. Then you got to transfer it. Then you got to this and that. And there's a negative. And I'm sure there's reversal film, but no, I don't want to. I don't want to do it. I'm digital. I'm digital. I do Super 8. Van, how's jujitsu? You inspired me to film my experience as a martial artist akin to when you first started at Sax Studio. I don't do jujitsu, but my son does. I'm finishing Vonnegut's Breakfast of Champions. It's a captivating book, but I'm curious about his deliberate word choice when it comes to race and nationality. He uses strong language when it comes to addressing persons of color. Do you feel awkward when typing those racially charged sections for your mural? Congratulations on your new addition to your family. Okay. Uh, yeah, there's some drawings too. Some like racist drawings. Like, Vonnegut's wasn't racist, but the characters in his book were racist, and it would put me in a bad mood, and I wouldn't know it. I wouldn't know that's what was doing it. It was like it would put me in a bad mood, like drawing this like whatever stuff on the thing. So yeah, it makes you feel gross. And I've thought about those actors who like play Hitler or play Nazis. It must really suck. It must really suck to play those, to embody those monsters. Sjored asks, Sjord, I think. It looks like a Scandinavian name. How do you organize store projects, research, planning, do lists, material together during and after a project? I see your post-its on the wall, but I wonder how this works as a process. There's this cardboard box shop down by where I have my storage container down on Topanga Canyon Boulevard in the valley, and they sell boxes that come in all these different they're flat, but you fold them up and they come in all these different dimensions. So I get like a 9 by 11.5 inch, which is perfect for 8.5 inch by 11 inch paper. And so all my scripts I put in there, like video by video, and they just have a label on the outside that says Spirited Man Paperwork. And that's all the scripts and stuff. They go in that box, and I have a bunch of those boxes like archived. And then I have another same size box that says Spirited Man Artwork, and that's all the little drawings and stuff, and they just go in there. And that's how I do it. And then the do lists, the ones that I wear in my pocket, like these things, these guys, I 3-hole punch them, and then I keep them in a 3-ring binder. Okay, Tony asks, I'm usually on my way taking my 12-year-old daughter climbing when you're live. She listens along and loves it when you have answered our questions. Excuse me, I'm burping a lot this morning. I recently made a bonsai tool kit holder from an old drill box I found in a skip. I'm looking to build a portable tool station. Could you explain what you used and how to allow your tool station to revolve? Also, any progress on the Spirited Man shirts, and have you thought of selling your logo in a patch form? Spirited Man shirts, we're still, we're working with a company here that manufactures in America these shirts, and it's just slow. They're backed up. They're very popular. This company has a lot of work that they're expanding, and so we're kind of in line. So the revolving tool station, you can get at hardware stores, I think you can get these nails that are pretty darn thick and like this long, not super thick, not this thick, but they're like, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch thick and long. So I used one of those as an axle for the top and as an axle for the bottom. And I just drilled, and then I just drilled into into the rotating wall thing. I just drilled that dimension, and then I put washers and like the felt feet that go under furniture and stuff. I took a soldering iron and burned a hole through that and made like a felt washer so that the steel washer can slide nicely on the felt washer, and just hammered them in there. I pre-drilled so that it was really tight, so I didn't split the wood, but then I just kind of hammered them in there and they work fine. And then the patch, yeah, I'll probably sell a patch. I want to sell a patch with like the sewing kit included, and it makes it super duper complicated. Okay, Dan asks, I really like how you use ambient sound. I've rewatched some just to listen. How do you capture ambient sound, and do you need different setups for different scenarios, i.e., different setup for capturing typewriter keys versus motorcycle engine? A video on how you create and capture sound might be cool. That is a good idea, Dan. So usually I do have like a folder of just nature sounds of like Foley sounds with the labels on them. But usually it's I just whatever the mic on the camera captures. I try not to talk during when I'm shooting, and I try not and I make and I'm pretty good about making sure that there's no music, audible music, or human voices in the background when I'm recording. And then the trick is if you want to use that as sound, you have to lower it like 10 decibels or so. And then because it should be really quiet underneath. And that's how I do it. What was Ivan asks, what was the key moment that made you jump to being a full-time YouTuber? Let me think. Was there a moment? I think it was after a bunch of failures trying to do like art gallery work. Like I kind of didn't want to make videos anymore. And I was like sick of the computers. And but so I did these projects that I didn't get out of them monetarily, kind of what I put into them. I mean, it was like cost. And then in the meantime, I was getting all these like little gigs that like video making gigs that I was able to kind of stay alive with the money. And I don't know, I think it was like a gradual thing where I made this video in New York in 2016 called The Spirited Man, and then I never it ended up becoming it's like one of the first 3 or 4 videos, something about New York. It's the one with the snow and me typing. And I had that I made that in 2016, and it just sat in the back of my head. And then I don't know, something happened. I think I had a conversation with Sax about doing like gallery non-video artwork and selling it, and he was just like, just make the videos, man. I think that's what happened. So it wasn't like it was a slow decision that I came to. Miran asks, did you see Henry Cartier-Bresson's legendary short video / lecture, The Decisive Moment, on his creative process as a photographer? Cheers from Croatia. Nice. I haven't seen it, but I'll probably see it today. John asks, I was watching the very first video recording yesterday, and looking at the footage, I could see to my untrained eye that everything was reasonably in focus and the color in the shots was not too crazy. Have you ever thought to break out that old camera if you still have it and start recording your videos on it, or do you no longer have it, which I can't imagine is true? Would you rebuy it and start shooting with it? Or plot 3, would you try to at least get the lens off it and refit to a modern camera and shoot with it? What things would make a bad... Okay, so that's one question. So I did buy it. I bought it's called a Sony TRV-8. I bought one from Japan. It worked for like 2 seconds, and then it had the problem that my old one had, in that you put the tape in, you close it, and it just won't recognize. It says there's something wrong with the tape. And then you put a new tape in, same, something wrong with the tape. And So I just kind of boxed it, and it's like a prop now. If I need it for a video, I can, I gave my original one to Josh Safdie on the mount that I made to make the Holland Tunnel movie on this like beautiful wooden thing. And he has it like in a vitrine, like as a treasure in his house. Um, and then my brother Casey said he found this camera. It's the DCR SR80. And this guy shoots on a hard drive, doesn't shoot on tapes. So then you can take the files off of the hard drive and then import them into your computer from this. And it has a remarkably similar, it's probably like a whatever, 1/3 inch CCD. It's this very, very similar image, but I haven't really shot anything with it. Yet. They're just so much, there's a much more of a hassle than the 4K camera in your phone, or, it'd have to be for a real specific application, I think. So I haven't, a lot of these like young kids, a lot of like Gen Z and whatever, Gen Z and Alpha Gen, I guess, these young kids, they only had iPhones. That's the only gadget they ever had their whole life. And it was all apps, right? So they never had like, I don't know, phones. They never had video cameras. They never had tape recorders. They never had notebooks. They never had all of the stuff that, I grew up with using and kind of got annoyed with. And so there's I see a lot of young people going back to the old stuff, but like, man, I already did my stuff with all the old stuff, and like I've paid my dues, and I'd rather just use the convenient new stuff that has a better image. I know that's not a very satisfying answer, but if I need to shoot something that looks old, I'll grab that camera and I'll do it. What things would make a bad video? Things like shake, lighting, etc. Do things really not matter as long as you're pushing the story forward? Okay, sound is more important than video. Poorly recorded sound makes a bad video. Recording sound, unless the camera's in your hand, recording someone with the camera mic and it sounds like this is no good. You got to get the mics right. That's why so many of us do voiceover, because you can get the sound like perfectly. And then the story is going to trump everything, because there's still radio and podcasts, but there's no more silent film. So the sound is way, way more important, and story is king of everything. You don't need you just need a microphone, and not even that if your story's great enough. So yeah, those things. William asks, what do you do to keep sleep to avoid overworking and exhausting yourself? Staying up late has been a common theme for me in college now, and it's slowly eating away at me the next day and the next. I have trouble with it, but I get up early in the morning and I go to bed early at night. And my goal is to get 8 hours of sleep. There's this guy named Matt Walker who's like, I think he's an MD, and he's done all this research and written these books about how it's just the cornerstone. It's the most important thing. It's like, I think it's more important than exercise, more important than diet. It's the most important thing is sleep, and like get 8 hours. Get it. Nothing is going to help you more than that. And then of course there's emergency stuff where you don't get it, but I just make it a real top priority, and it's just like, no, I have to do 8 hours of sleep. But it's hard. It's hard. The hard part is going to bed early when you wake up early in the morning. But if you do it enough, you're just so tired by the end of the day that you won't have trouble. And then all the other little things like no screens, no bright lights, no lights on in the middle of the night, no screens for an hour before. Don't drink Diet Coke or caffeine after 10 a.m. or whatever. Yeah, but super important. From Samuel, from your experience, what avenues would you recommend for getting noticed in filmmaking? Possibly any film fests or other platforms that provide a creative output for aspiring storytellers. Well, above all, you have to be undeniable, and that takes a tremendous amount of time, and 50% of it is luck, because maybe you just suck. And no amount of work is gonna get you good enough, so I don't know, because my era is completely, completely different than this era, and, like, I found, Tom Sachs out of 8 million people in New York. I found Tom Sachs, and, he had a big, influential, and important, like, audience and peers, and so there was living in New York, there was lots of opportunities to do do projects with people and, um, get in magazines and so forth, that stuff. The press, it was different back then. But now, with YouTube, if you're just undeniable, you'll be good. I think the filmmaking stuff, like making movies for cinema and everything, it's pretty corrupt right now, and it's pretty closed, and they're not making very good movies, and the ones who are making good movies are either from different countries, or they're legacy directors from the period before, I guess, streaming, maybe, like, Paul Thomas Anderson, Wes Anderson, these guys, these legends. um There was a time in the '90s when, like, that was filmmaking. Like, you could, if you were there, you could come out and make these incredible independent movies, and there was a whole market for it, and there was a whole, kind of a system being invented for it, but that's gone. That all got sucked up with Miramax and the, $100 million independent films, and, it's no longer. That's like working at a big factory. Those things. It's like working on a Formula One team. There's 600 people on a Formula One team. So if are you going to be? How much money do you have if you want to be like a filmmaker? Filmmaker, your competition is, like, at the top, as I think, mostly people who don't need money to make the films, like, from very wealthy families, and now you have multi-generational people making, their father and grandfather were huge stars, or I was watching, I had never seen Kill Bill Volume 2 until, like, a couple nights ago, and then, she's pregnant. She has a baby in the end, and I'm like, "Oh my god, her daughter is, like, one of the stars of Stranger Things." Like, her actual Uma Thurman's actual daughter is, like, one of the stars of Stranger Things, and it's just like, yeah, she's born into the business. So, but you have this other thing, which is this YouTube world, which is still being invented. The genres within YouTube are still being invented. It's like the Wild West. So yeah, you just have to work really hard, I think, and, be undeniable, be really good. Um, and that's how you get noticed, I think. But film festivals, waste of time. They just exploit you. They exploit the filmmaker. They don't pay for anything. They don't pay for meals or hotels. Some film festivals charge the film director to attend the festival, or they give zero, like, guest passes to go to the screenings, so that, like, if you want to go with your wife, you have to pay $700 for, like, a guest pass. Meanwhile, the reason this whole thing is, like, fueling your town, the reason your town has this huge festival that brings in millions of dollars and thousands of people, is because of the content that you made to put in this festival that they will not pay you for. It's just, I'm basically against film festivals. I think Cannes, or uh or maybe, I've never been to Venice, but maybe those two are okay, just because of the real, in Europe, the reverence for the artists that they have, and just those places are so great. Even if the festival sucks, who cares? Those places are so glorious. But yeah, I'm against them. Um Steven asks, I've been wanting to capture more moments from my life with my phone or cameras, like just have it recording or setting it up when I'm spending quality time with my loved ones. From your videos, it's as if you do it naturally without the intent that you're going to create something from it, like a YouTube video. I am not trying to become a YouTuber. I just want to save memories. I don't think there's a question. Um, yeah, keep doing it. That's great. Keep doing it. Um, roll for at least 10 seconds without moving the camera. One, count silently or watch the little time code thing. 10 seconds, then a new one because you'll need at least 10 seconds. Sam asks, from your experience, what makes the best routine or lack of to produce the most rewarding and successful work during the creative process? I think if you don't have response, it depends how old you are. Um, I think if you're single, if you're not married, you don't have any kids, and that's like your thing, I think just be a little crazy. Just try to work every moment you're awake. And then, like, when you need to do food and stuff, make those. You can stop working for that, but make those events. Like, I learned all this stuff. Like, oh, my beginning was in New York City, so I had there's two things going on. I was like becoming an adult and a grown man in New York City, and then I was, learning this filmmaking, video making stuff. And so in the off time, it was just as crazy. It was this crazy environment, and there was tons of people and like cool little cliques and communities and everything, and great restaurants. And there was like people would meet you for lunch very easily. And so what we were able to do in New York is just basically work all of our conscious hours, and then in the downtime of like needing to eat or sleep, you can eat somewhere fun and you just kind of sleep in your apartment and then wake up and do it again. So, but with the children and the and the and the woman, you gotta. I since the baby's been born, I haven't been waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, no, that's not true. Probably for maybe the last month, I haven't been waking up at 4. I've been waking up at like between 4 and 5. I used to wake up between 3 and 4. But waking up really early in the morning, because it's very quiet. I don't know if you just heard that horn. It's very quiet and there's no distractions. No one's calling you. No one's texting you. None of that shit, because it's 4 o'clock in the morning. It's the hour of the wolf. So that's very handy. But you're by yourself, so you got to really get your routine dialed in. And as you get older, you got to do exercise and you got to do rest. Once you start reaching your 30s, you're like mid 30s, you have to really build rest into your routine. You have to, you have to, it's a form of discipline. You have to make yourself do it. How much can life get in the way of this before it becomes disruptive to the process? Oh, life can totally destroy it. Your routine. You have to fight, like literally fight, fight, like line in the sand. I don't mean like fist fight, but I mean like there's going to be trouble with the people around you because it takes so much to do this stuff. So you have to defend it, and you have to defend your time to be able to do it. Rachel asks, I have wondered if you ever want to change one of your movies after its release. Are there details that bother you that you'd like to fix? I I think your movies are perfect, but do you see them in the same way? I'm very lazy. And I'm kind of a quitter. I just want things to be done, really. And so the video that came out yesterday, which was on it was on it was the one about watching the first videotape I ever shot. It came out on Patreon first, and then I had a sponsor for it so when it came out on YouTube, I had to go. So before I could publish it on YouTube, I had to go through the video and watch it and make sure there was no like swearing and all of this stuff. And there were a couple little tiny things that I changed and fixed. But no, I don't really revisit stuff. I just want to get better, and then the next time around, I won't make that mistake, or I'll be a little bit better at it. But yeah, the like Indiana Jones, I had for the Patreon version of that of the um, ambition video, for the Indiana Jones sequence, I had the original sound and it was much longer. But for copyright purposes, I had to take the original sound out and just use my music. And then I had to make it shorter. It was too long. It was too long I thought in the original, but maybe it wasn't too long because I had the original sound. But once you took the original sound out, it was too long. Little things like that. And then there was a dumb mistake where I said the Super 8 camera was a ingenue, but it was a I can't remember the name of it. It's some French or Danish camera. So I just dubbed that over, and then I said it was the Chelsea fleas, but it was actually the Soho fleas, Chelsea flea market, but it was actually the Soho flea market. So I went and dubbed that. But those are just little mistakes that I made in the voiceover in the original. But nah, I don't change things that much unless if it's a new public screening, I'll go over it and then make little tiny changes here and there. Ian asks, I'm new here. Can someone tell me how to find the link to the live stream, please? Oh, I'm reading these for the first time. So, it just comes up well, you found it. What brand are your safety glasses? They're American Optical. Yep, American Optical. You can find them on eBay. All right, that's all the questions, I think. Yeah, that's all of them. Well, have a great weekend. Thank you for tuning in. And I'm going to try to do one of these every month, one of these live streams. Okay. Take care, everybody.